Hey guys, it's Tahira, and today I'm doing my July wrap up. I know it's the end of August. It's literally actually it's not even the end of August, it's September 1st, the day I'm filming this. But I just got super busy over the month of August because after the reading rush I had some family that came over for a week, and then school started, and then I just got wrapped up in school and I never really had time to film. And god, it's really so hard to film while you are a student, especially senior year of high school, because college apps, and yeah, it's been a crazy few weeks. But yeah, I finally found a time to film because it's the long weekend and I'm really excited because I haven't filmed in a really long time. And I know that it's super late for my July wrap up, but I'm gonna do it anyways because I guess I'm just doing it for myself, just to keep track of the books I've been reading over the years. I just decided why not do it. I'll post it at the same time, or a back to back with my August wrap ups, just you can still get the books I read in August as well. Oh, also I have blue hair, if you couldn't tell. But yeah, that's something new. Anyway, in the month of in the month of July, I read a total of 5 books, which is including the books that I read for the reading rush. I really wanted to read 7 books for the reading rush, but that didn't end up happening, and I knew that it was an unrealistic goal. But yeah, nonetheless, I still read 5 books during the month of July, which I think is still really great because actually I was gone half of the month, and the other half started doing stuff for the SAT, and family came over. So yeah, I think it was still a pretty good month. But yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and start talking about the books I read during July. So the first book that I read in the month of July was The Vanishing Star by Maureen Johnson. The Vanishing Star is the sequel to Truly Devious, and Truly Devious follows the story of this a man named Albert Ellingham, and his wife and daughter are kidnapped in the 1920s, I think, or 30s, and the murder is not solved, and years and years later, this girl named Stevia Bell goes to Ellingham Academy, which is the academy created by Albert Ellingham, and she goes there to basically, she's a crime enthusiast and she wants to solve the mystery of the kidnapping of the 2 women. I really love Truly Devious. I think it is a great entryway into YA mystery. I myself have not read a lot of YA mystery, but I really enjoy this series. It's one of my favorites. The Vanishing Star, I gave it 4.5 stars, so I really enjoyed it. In this book, I really loved the progression of the mystery from the end of book 1. Book 1 actually ended in a cliffhanger, so I was really excited to read this to see where the story played out, and I really enjoyed it. The mystery aspect of this is really compelling. It makes me want to find out more. It makes me excited whenever CB is investigating or researching something. It brings me it makes me involved in the mystery as well, and I really want to know the process of solving a mystery. I think that the character relationships also deepened between Stevie and the rest of the main characters, and I really love the character development of the main characters. The only thing that I docked a half star for was that the ending was not as big of a cliffhanger as I wanted it to be. The first book was such a big cliffhanger, and it literally made me want to just immediately pick up the second book, and this did end on a cliffhanger, but it didn't impact me as much as the first book, in my opinion. Overall, I really enjoyed the second book of this trilogy, and I'm really excited for the third book to see how it all comes together in the end. The second book that I read in the month of July was The King of Fools by Amanda Foody. King of Fools is another sequel, and it is a sequel to Ace of Shades by Amanda Foody, and Ace of Shades follows this girl named Anne who goes to the illustrious city of Sin, also known as New Orleans, to go find her mother, and in the process she finds this guy named Levi who can help her, and she'll give him money in exchange for his help in finding her mother. I love King of Fools so much. I give this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and I loved Ace of Shades so much, but I loved this even more. The only thing is sometimes it felt really long because this is a 600-page book, and sometimes it felt like it was dragging sometimes, and I just wanted the story to move forward a little faster than it was. And this book also has way less action, I feel, than Ace of Shades. There is some action, but it's a lot more filled with a lot more political intrigue, and there's a lot more politics and elections and just a lot more stuff with explaining how the city works with its different political parties, and it was really interesting to read about. But I sometimes wish that there was a little more action, especially considering that this is a 600-page book. There's lots of economics in this book with stock markets and investing, and I didn't always fully get how that worked, and I don't know if it was just my understanding of the economic system or if it was Amanda Foody's explaining. But yeah, it felt like I was confused a bit at times, but it was still really interesting to read about how to make money with all this. As usual, the ending was amazing. Amanda Foody is always known for her amazing endings with lots of tension, and this was no different. I just love the way Amanda Foody writes her endings. It's just always filled with a lot of tension, and it always makes you want to know what's gonna happen. So now we are actually getting into my reading rush read. So the first book I ended up reading for the reading rush was Labyrinth Lost by Zoraida Cordova. This book follows a girl named Alex who is a bruja, and she's the most powerful witch of her generation, but she actually hates her magic. So at her death day celebration, she actually tries to perform a ritual in order to get rid of herself of magic, but it ends up backfiring and her whole family vanishes into thin air. So she takes the help of this other guy named Nova in order to go find and save her family. I really love the culture and diversity in this book, because Latina culture in Mexican culture is not a culture I've read about often in YA novels, so that was a really refreshing part of this book. The only thing is that it felt a little unoriginal. It felt like a very typical YA fantasy, and I just wanted a little bit more. One thing I really loved about this book was the relationship between Alex and her sisters and her family, and because sister relationships is not something I see a lot, so it was really nice to see it, because I have siblings of my own, so it's really fun to see sister relationships and other sibling relationships in YA novels. I give this book 3.75 out of 5 stars because another thing that I didn't really like was that this book is just barely above 300 pages, and it is a standalone fantasy, so I feel like it could have been longer in order to sort of flesh out some of the main characters as well as the villain, because the villain, the most uninteresting, most unscary villain I've ever read about in a fantasy novel, and I feel like it could have been developed more with some more, like, if it had been longer. But yeah, overall I still really liked this book, and I'm interested in picking up the companion novel Bruja Born soon. The second book that I read for the reading rush was actually a graphic novel, which I haven't read in a really long time, and that is Mouse by Art Spiegelman. This is volume 1, A Survivor's Tale, My Father Bleeds History, and it's about this son, and he is writing about his father's story as a Jewish prisoner in Nazi Germany. I actually gave this book 3 stars. This book was way different than I was imagining. It's because I thought it was a story about, like, the main character as a prisoner during Nazi Germany, but it was actually about a son writing about his dad's story as in Nazi Germany, and at points it got boring. I don't know if it was because I had read about Nazi Germany or like World War II a lot, or is the way it was written, but it just felt boring and dragging at times. I also didn't fully get the cat and mouse reference, because the Jewish are supposed to be the mice and the Germans are supposed to be the cats, but it literally just stopped there, because I thought there would be something interesting with not necessarily them being in Nazi Germany, but them being in a story that's related to cat and mice, because, like, other than them being cat and mice, there's nothing that is different about them that act like humans, and I feel like it would have been a way more interesting story if they acted like mice and cats, and it has something to do with how mice and cats act in real life, if you know what I mean. I just felt like I didn't really get the metaphor of the cat and mice, and I feel like they could have acted more like cat and mice to make it more interesting, instead of just them looking like cats and mice but acting human. The last book that I ended up reading in July, and the last book for the reading rush, was Notes from My Captivity by Kathy Parks. Notes from My Captivity follows this girl named Adrian who wants to go on this trip with her stepfather to the Siberian wilderness in order to debunk her father's optimistic thoughts about there being a long lost family living in the Siberian wilderness. So she goes on this trip, and basically she gets captured by this family, and she has to figure out how to get out. This is actually a first for me for reading a wilderness/survival book, and I actually really enjoyed it. I give this book 4 out of 5 stars, which is actually really surprising for me, because I thought I wouldn't like it as much, because it's about like a survival story in the Siberian wilderness. I didn't really know about how I would feel about it. This book also took a much darker turn than I was expecting, because I don't want to spoil anything, but just the way that things played out, I really was not expecting, and it's much darker than I thought. The only thing is that that in the synopsis it explains that she gets caught and that the family is real, and I feel like that could have been a plot twist that would have been a really nice one. Not a nice one, maybe, because you might be expecting that the family is actually alive, but the fact that she is kidnapped from them might have been, I feel like should have been hidden, because it was revealed in the synopses of the book, so you basically know what's gonna happen, and it makes the rest of the story a little anticlimactic when it does happen. Another thing I really didn't like was the magical realism slash supernatural aspect that played in a little at the end of the book, and it just felt a little weird and out of place, and it just, I don't know, it just I didn't like it. But this book does talk a lot about survival and humanity, which I really enjoyed, and it has some really deep and thoughtful things to say. But yeah, overall I really enjoyed this. This is actually really cool because I won this from 2018, the 2018 reading rush, or the booktubeathon back then, and so I was reading it for this year's reading rush, which was really cool. But yeah, I actually really thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was actually a surprise. That is from my July wrap up. Let me know down below what's your favorite book that you read in the month of July. I know that July was like already like 2 months ago, but it's okay. But yeah, that is it for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.